This is a CNA podcast.
So today, I'm about to enter a place that I've never set foot in my 10 years as a journalist. We get our ICs checked and our belongings scanned, and then my colleague John and I are escorted to leave our personal items, including our phones and wallets, in a locker. 182.
So my camera's inside here, and then
Okay. Oh, just that.
yeah,
Okay,
so I
fine,
can
you
yeah.
Next, we have to put all our recording equipment through another X-ray scanner. It feels like airport security, with the planes from nearby Changi Airport flying overhead. Except that the checks here are much, much more thorough.
This one inside got water.
This is inside. Yes, inside got water.
What water is it?
Just normal plain water.
Can open up? Okay, you can go.
Okay, thank you.
The place we're at, if you've not guessed by now, is Singapore's Changi prison. As we walk across the main square, under the hot noon sun with the lunchtime bustle of prison staff, I'm surprised to find that it's actually pretty green. Almost like a school campus. But once we step inside Institution B1, everything changes. It's a lot cooler in here, but everything around me is just grey, from the walls to the window bars. At every door, we have to wait for a guard to buzz us through. This happens again and again. It's as though I'm trapped, with no sense of time in a place where I can't control anything. It's isolating. For an outsider like me, it's like time stands still in here. I can't imagine what life's like for the man we're about to meet. How are you feeling today, James?
Good.
Did you just come from lunch?
Yeah, we just had our lunch.
What do you eat?
We're having a fried mee hoon.
Good or not?
Survival lah.
If at any time you want to stop, we can stop.
I have the time also. The time is the only thing we had in here.
Time is something you have here.
Yeah, it's the only thing we had in here.
James is in his 40s and is currently 2 years, 6 months into a roughly 4-year sentence for drug-related crimes and voluntarily causing grievous hurt. And periodically, as we talk, we're interrupted by announcements over the prison PA system. But what we're here to talk about today is what's waiting for him outside these prison walls.
They may not have to reply me, but they can read my letter and know that I've never stopped missing them and I've never stopped loving them.
I'm Lian Chia, a journalist with CNA Insider. And in this special edition of Imperfect, I go behind the walls of Changi Prison to find out what it's like to live with perhaps the worst mistake you've ever made as a parent. What if you became the very thing you swore never to be as a parent? And how do you bounce back from that? Can you still be a good father after all that? Tell me about your sons.
The eldest is Alpha lah. Okay, and the younger, my sweetest one called Bravo lor.
Why do you call them that?
When they're young, when I bought that lot of Nerf gun, we played with the rest of the boys around neighborhood. Then they even have a code sign lah. So the Alpha team, the Bravo will have Bravo team. Then I will be the commanding officer.
None of these names, James, Alpha, Bravo, are their real names. James chose these pseudonyms for his sons to protect them from the choices he's made. They've been separated for almost 3 years, and he clearly misses them.
Alpha, he's a very, very adorable boy. He loves to joke a lot. Sometimes while we just look at each other, just make a very cute face, then I just laugh all the way. Bravo, he's very close to me. He's the one who always cling by my side whenever I come home, talking non-stop, getting me drinks, massage my back. Just like to stay close with me lah. The youngest always the sweetest.
James tells me he wanted to be the kind of father to them that he never had growing up. James's own dad was mostly never around.
Very well. I think my dad was having another partner outside. So my growing up was in the essence of my dad most of the time.
James's mum worked full-time. So, as a boy, he helped with the housework and took care of his younger brother.
That's my upbringing lah. and tell myself, in future I get married, I'm not going to leave my children without father.
In his teen years, James got into a gang and spent his days at tea dances after school with his friends.
That time we were teenage lah. We need groups of friends, a sense of belonging. So
At 18, he was arrested and spent 2 years in prison for rioting.
2 years later, nothing changed much lah. But I still go back to my old group of friends. So
It wasn't long before he was arrested again, this time for drug consumption. He spent another year in jail. When he got out, James was in his mid-20s. He worked at a mobile phone shop for a while, met a girl, got married, and then... on a Christmas Eve, his son was born. He remembers the moment they put Alpha in his arms.
the moment when I'm able to carry him, the feeling was, I can't really express my word lah. It's a miracle, you know. I'm a dad, and this is my child. I tell myself, I'm going to do my best for him lah.
That was the point that James remembers everything changing.
With a child, you have to change. You cannot live the lifestyle of the past, still partying tonight, or mingling with friends. I'm a family man.
2 years later, Bravo came along. James, who was determined to be the best dad he could be, opened his own mobile phone shop. Life was pretty good, he says, for a couple of years at least. And then, when his sons were 3 and 5, his business failed and things soured between him and his wife.
We had a big quarrel, and she left, leaving the boys at home without no one to take care.
James was left to break the news to his young boys, and he told them that Mummy had gone home to visit her parents.
It worked for a few days lah. So when the boys, they started to ask for the mum, I feel very heartbroken. They ask me, where's mum? Then I just tell the boys, oh, mama busy lah.
Students, can proceed now.
Okay, sorry, you were saying...
Yeah, I tell my boys, no worry, mommy will not be around, but daddy will always be around. I love you as a dad, and I love you as a mum.
James's mum moved in to help with his sons, while he took on work, first as a security officer, and then as a delivery driver to support them. But he says he tried to make time for his boys.
So whenever school holding like sport days or parents' day, they look at me. Daddy, will you come? I said, I will come. I bring them to parks. I teach them how to ride bicycle, how to swim. A lot of activity we do together. Just not to let them feel left out. But at times, I can see from their eyes, when they see children with mother, and they look at me, I just smile at them and hug them. So my boys also very strong. I'm very proud of them.
Do you want to take a break?
Yeah, please.
Okay. There are many, many memories of his sons that James shares with little prompting. He remembers hugging them to sleep at night.
I will lie in the middle, so the left, right, or like burger sandwich.
There were the joy rides they'd take at night in his lorry, all squeezed together up in front.
And I'll drive them to many places to try nice food. So like where we are famous for fried Hokkien Mee, many nice food like bak kut teh, our favorite. Then I'll check with them, chit-chat, how are they, hear their little stories.
And even when they became teenagers, it didn't really change how close they were, James said. They'd tell him things like,
that other people's fathers was not like you.
Their friends' fathers always told them what to do.
Always like impose them to do this, to do that,
But Alpha and Bravo were proud to say that their dad...
Very proud to share. Their dad was very open with them, very patient, always like talk to them as friends.
Even when he lost the school with his boys, and he did have a bad temper, he says they always made up.
If I scold them, they're angry, they don't talk to me for a while. After that, they'll text back, hi dad. We have no grudges overnight.
James didn't plan on getting married again. His sons were enough for him, he said. But then, he fell in love again. She ran a restaurant business, and they soon became engaged. James was worried about what the boys would think, but when he brought it up, they told him,
That is okay for you to have a girlfriend. We've grown up already. It's okay to have a partner. You don't need to always spend time with us. The boys have grown up. I started to have more friends, more freedom.
James moved in with his fiancée and started a new job managing renovation projects. His more flexible schedule meant he could make time to send his boys to school or pick them up. But more friends and freedom also meant more temptations. James started going out more often with his friends. One night, they were hanging out at a multi-story car park when, he claims, one of them approached him.
He offered me these drugs. Not in a good stage of mind, that time I just tag along. Just play in my car that time.
Why were you not in a good
We were drunk. So we just try and play and got caught.
They were stopped and checked at a police roadblock, and the drugs were found. I asked James why he'd given in to drugs that night, and he couldn't quite give a clear answer other than,
That is the part that I also don't know why I fall for that. I mean, the peers around us also influence a bit. I don't blame others, but it also, how to say, we are not in the right stage of mind, I can say.
James was charged with drug possession and consumption, and as a repeat offender, he was looking at a few years in prison. The question was, would he tell his sons? He decided he wouldn't.
I did mention to them, maybe daddy had to go away for some time,
You didn't say, do you say jail?
No. The boys, I don't think they take it easy.
Besides, James didn't think he'd be behind bars for long. He hoped with time off for good behaviour, he'd be out within 2 years, or sooner, if he could get placed in a community-based program.
From my understanding, that was just maybe a year. Just a short sentence or something like that.
And maybe things might have worked out the way he hoped, or maybe not, but James didn't get to find out. A few months after he was arrested and let out on bail, James was at his fiancée's restaurant to pick her up after work. It was the wee hours of the morning, and he sat at a table drinking while he waited for her.
And here come this drunkard guy.
According to James's account, the staff said this man had been disturbing other patrons.
So when he looked at me, I just look at him. I said, if you're drunk, don't create trouble. If you cannot drink, just leave. He ignored me.
James says he sat with the man to keep an eye on him, and when his fiancée arrived, he saw the guy give her a look.
The expression in the guy look was, wow, I don't know how to say that, like, never seen a woman before. No?
And then, according to James, the man...
Just stand up and grab her or something like that. I cannot take it.
James
So
picked up a mug from the table and
I hit him with a mug.
the man fell to the ground. The blow left a deep cut and there was blood everywhere. James continued hitting him until his fiancée stopped him.
So she just pushed me off. Go. No, at that time I also couldn't really think well. I left my car keys, my wallet, my phone, everything. I just lived through the back alley.
But as he ran through the alley,
I saw petrol car coming.
James was arrested again. This time, James knew there'd be no hope for a short stint in prison, and he couldn't keep his secret from his sons any longer. So one night, when he was out on bail, he sat them down and told them that Daddy was going to jail.
I have to answer for what I done. I'll be away for some time.
He remembers how his boys sat silently, their heads bowed.
I can feel the sadness. They also were wordless.
They hugged and cried.
I said, you are grown up. You are now going to be young teens, so young men, no longer a small boy. So you must be able to take care of yourself.
James would be leaving them on their own. The very thing his father had done to him and which he'd vowed never to do to them.
You lost not only your freedom, you break the heart of your loved one.
James wasn't going to jail straight away. The court proceedings still had to run their course. He was facing 2 drug charges and a string of other misdemeanor charges. But he hadn't yet been charged over the incident at the restaurant, which the police were investigating. For nearly 4 months, James went about his life in between court appearances. He sent his boys to school in the morning, went to work, and video called them during the day. Then in mid-October 2020, he was called to appear in court again. His fiancée accompanied him, and they had breakfast together.
I had kueh chat, but also not much appetite lah. Then my fiancée was not eating. She just looked at me, keep looking at me, Maybe you can sense something.
Still, they were expecting it to be just another procedural court session. They'd made plans to go grocery shopping afterward, and James was planning to celebrate Bravo's 12th birthday just 2 days away. He'd bought his son a watch. But as the hearing proceeded, a fresh charge was brought against James. It was over the restaurant incident, a count of voluntarily causing grievous hurt, which carries a possible sentence of up to 10 years in jail, among other penalties. With this new charge, James was now deemed a danger to society, and his bail was revoked immediately. He would be going straight into remand once the hearing ended.
I was shocked. The lawyer shocked. Also, everyone shocked. Everyone's mouth dropped open.
James had known he'd be going to jail eventually. He just thought he'd see the day coming. He thought he'd have the chance to say goodbye to his sons. Instead, his boys had to learn from his fiancée that Daddy wasn't coming home for a long time.
Things fall apart. Really fall apart.
It had been 2 decades since James spent any substantial time in jail. As he was led through the barred gates of Changi prison, he thought to himself,
Oh shit. What am I doing here again?
When the door closed.
Yeah, when I hear the sound, boom. Oh no.
the first 2 times he'd gone in,
We need lost our freedom. So this time around is different. I'm a family man. My aged parent, my 2 sons, and some of my career I just started, all got cut off.
he felt guilty for the hurt he was causing them.
Especially when you in the silence of the night. You tend to think back a lot of things. The good, the bad, thing that shouldn't have done. It all came back.
James worried about not being there for Alpha, who at 14 years old was getting more and more into gaming, and for Bravo, who was about to take his PSLE or primary school leaving exams. At first, they were able to visit him in prison twice a week, face to face across a partition. The first time was hard for James.
I broke down because of the guilt and of the missing. We used to hug, cuddle each other, try to, but now it just separate by a panel. That kind of that feeling is going to stay with me till I die. I tell you. the hurt.
With each visit only lasting 20 minutes, James had to keep things quick.
I just tell them, don't do things that you shouldn't be doing. Concentrate on your studies. And very fast, time will pass and we'll be back again. Just be strong. My son is a yes, daddy. We are strong and you also have to be strong.
He could tell his sons were trying to be upbeat for his sake, but
I know in their eyes, especially when every time is up, we just can't bear to move away from that small slot.
His fiancée later told him how much they missed him.
My youngest, Bravo, miss me so much. He can't sleep. He can't eat. He don't talk to anyone. And he hug my clothes every day and cry in his sleep. It's very pain my heart.
In July 2021, James was sentenced to just over 3 years and 10 months in prison, including time he'd already spent in remand. And instead of 2 family visits a week, he got only 2 a month. Each visit entailed security checks and a long wait.
What really melted my heart is the Alpha. His school finished, he rushed all the way with his school While he's talking to me, he fell asleep. I said, why have you come? Dad, I miss you. Just a simple Dad, I miss you. It's enough. This proves that how much my son loved me, And how can I still waste unnecessary time in here?
To save his family the trips down to the prison, James opted for televisits instead. His sons would ask him,
Dad, when are you coming home?
and he would say,
Son, very soon. Very soon, Daddy will be coming home.
James doesn't want to spend more time away from them than he needs to.
I don't want any unnecessary charges to extend my stay in here. Main thing is to avoid unnecessary trouble.
So he spends his time reading books,
Non-fiction, on non-fiction. Read until no book, I read like dictionary.
and he tries to avoid conflicts and fights, which are bound to happen when people live together in close confines.
I just move away. I just move away. There are people who want to get involved in unnecessary. I just smile away. In here, there is no such thing as you're the victim or what. Anything happen, you'll be involved, even you never start the thing.
But James, 20 years ago, would have acted quite differently.
I don't deny I'm not a very good person, meaning that I'm not a pushover. I'm, how to say, a lot of things avoid because of my children.
But while James was trying to stay out of trouble inside prison, on the outside, his family life was crumbling. His fiancée broke off their relationship within a year.
Expected, but never expect so fast,
And in his second year in jail, he began to hear troubling things about his boys, who were, by then, 14 and 16. James's mother told him they'd both been playing truant.
Stop going to school, come home late, bring friends home. I was very worried.
His mother couldn't do much to control them.
The generation gap is too much already. They can love, but they cannot discipline. That's why every visit leave me very troubled.
As you hear all this and you cannot do anything about
we can't do anything about it.
At least once a month, James would send them an e-letter. He'd write and rewrite each one several times.
Because when you're writing, the emotion is different. When you're angry, you use very strong words. I edit a lot of my words. So become more on encouragement, letting them know daddy knows what they're going through and how sorry I am to let them know to go through all this trouble by themselves.
His son's replies, if they came at all, were brief.
Dad, not to worry about us, we're doing fine, you take care of yourself. It's all very short.
Then in December, James finally got the chance he'd been waiting for. He would be meeting his family as part of a special open visit program. And this time, there'd be no barriers between them. For the first time in 2 years, James would be able to hug his sons. But then he found out that Bravo wasn't coming. According to Alpha,
Bravo said that Dad anyway is coming home. Why bother? It's okay lah. I respect his wish. No point I force him to come, create unnecessary unhappiness.
But James can't help worrying if Bravo didn't want to face him for some reason. Like, had his boy done something wrong that he felt guilty about?
Luckily, I'm returning soon. Hopefully in time, before any big mistake has been happened.
Do you ever worry, right, that you may have set a wrong example for them?
Yes. That's why I will make things right. We don't deny the fact that we've done something wrong. A wrongdoing doesn't mean it's forever. Important is to know the mistake and never do it again. I don't blame my boys. I'm to blame. I create all this trouble. I should be the one to man it up again.
There are times, James says, when worrying about his sons keeps him up at night. But even in prison, there are avenues of support.
I got a few good friends. We have been very encouraging each other.
Talking to a prison psychologist has also helped James process his feelings.
To relieve a bit of the stress, which we can't share with guys.
And soon after that open visit in December, James was able to arrange a phone call with Bravo.
I called him and he heard my voice. He was very excited. Bravo. Dad, is that you? I said, yes, it's me, son. I can hear from his voice, he's very happy. I was asking, how are you? How come you never go to school? What happened to you? He promised me he'll go to school. Everything is promised. Yes.
Knowing that Bravo still misses him eases James's worries. And he can focus on the question now in front of him. How can he be a better father?
Right now, they're growing up. I just hope I can faster go back to them, give them good support and guidance.
One of the questions that's posed to us as facilitators of the HERO program, how does being a good father look like?
That's Jane Quek, a senior psychologist with the Singapore Prison Service who works with inmates like James. And she's noticed that wanting to be a good father is very strong motivation for many inmates to change.
Because I think for a lot of them, they themselves, they may not have good father role models in that sense.
Jane is among a team of psychologists who facilitate a program called HERO. It stands for Honour, Empathy, Resilience and Ownership, all values they hope to foster in the inmates. It's meant for those who've committed violent crimes, and it includes modules that teach them how to manage relationships, resolve conflicts, and regulate their emotions better. 3 times a week, small groups of inmates get together to share and learn from each other's experiences. And some of them happen to be dads like James.
If let's say they worry that I can't be a good father, I worry that I cannot provide for my child, what else can I do? And that's a conversation that we try and elicit responses from the other people in the group. What have you done as a good father that you find it actually helps to improve the relationship with your kids?
James these days helps facilitate such conversations. He completed the Hero program last year, but has stayed on as a peer facilitator. To get picked as one, you have to be regarded as a good influence on the group and to have really taken steps to commit to changing.
I have become more patient. Patient in a way that I don't lose my temper easily. I will wait before I jump to any decision or action.
One piece of advice he often shares with fellow inmates:
I will just ask them one thing. Put you in the shoe of your children. How you feel? You want a father to do that to you?
To those who were beaten or neglected as kids, he says,
That's why you end up like that. You don't want that to happen to your children, so change your attitude.
one other rehabilitation program that James took part in, meant specifically for fathers, is called I Can Change. It's meant to help fathers in prison reconnect better with their children. For James, it means learning how to parent his teenage sons differently than when they were young.
We have to be more patient with them and sit with it. Use concern rather than use punishment to get into their heart.
Be more patient. He uses that phrase a lot, and he does seem convinced he's no longer the hot-headed man who landed himself in jail.
I can say I'm a changed man now. I'm confident I'm much better than the past me.
But I wonder, James has said that before about an earlier time in his life, like when his sons were born.
So when with your child, you have to change.
Why is James so sure that this time in prison will be his last?
I know where I'm heading. No more for me waste my time in here. These 2 years plus has really waked me up in a hard way, in a painful way, of sacrificing my freedom, my time with my loved ones, my family. I don't want to let them go unwaste.
James could be up for release as early as July 2023 if all goes well. And he's got a clear plan of action. He hopes to start off working in his brother's company in the renovation industry and eventually starts his own.
It's not going to be easy, I know.
He thinks running his own business will give him more quality time with his boys.
I'll make it more meaningful to cover back my lost time.
But first things first, when he gets out,
I'm going to give my son, my parents, a tight, big hug. Nothing more important than that.
what's the first thing you're going to eat?
I think if they hear this, they should laugh. I love roast duck drumstick. The moment I step out here, I'm going to bite to eat and feel the explosion of the flavor in my mouth.
This is the last in our series for now on parenting guilt. We'll be taking a break, but we'll be back in a few months with new episodes of Imperfect by CNA Insider. I want to thank you for listening and for sharing your views and ideas with us. If you've got any feedback on our episodes, write to us at cnainsider@mediacorp.com.sg. In the meantime, if you haven't already, do check out our other episodes where we cover topics from mental health to screen time and tackling school exams. Imperfect by CNA Insider is produced by me, Lian Chia, sound engineered by Jonathan Yeo, edited by supervising editor Yvonne Lim, with input from senior editor Crispina Robert.